Well, hello and welcome to another Unlock the Vault Express webinar. My name is Daniel Gray. I am the South Australian and Northern Territory Digital BDE for the Ray White Group. And today I will be taking you through the VaultRE filter contacts, filter properties, and contact distribution lists. I am just going to bring up the Vault screen here. Bear with me for 2 seconds. And now we should be looking at the dashboard of Vault. So before I get into the content of today's Express webinar, I do just want to bring your attention to the help section up the top right-hand side. Through this section, you can submit a support request, be that via email. There's also a number that you can call if something is urgent and you need support by the Vault team directly. Otherwise, there's a few webinar tabs down the bottom here that you can watch to upskill on pretty much all aspects and features of VaultRE as a CRM. So that's available to you there. All right. So filter contacts, filter properties, and contact distribution lists. If anyone was familiar with the smart category in my desktop, what it was used for is you would either go to what was previously known as the CCR tool, now known as filter contacts, or you would potentially go to a vendor report for all of your previous open for inspection attendees or online inquiries or any follow-up that you've been doing that was attached to a vendor report. You would tick the particular contacts that you wanted to add into a smart category. You would click add to smart category, and then you could send out a specific EDM or text message or whatever it might be to that smart category. The purpose of it was to prevent you from having to make a permanent category and update it manually every single time you wanted to send out a specific EDM or text message. So one example of that might be I would use the CCR tool, now known as filter contacts, to bring up a list of all my property owners in Unley Park, and I want to send them a market review. Instead of having an Unley Park category that I would have to manually update and subtract and take people as they sold and bought in that particular area, straight to the CCR tool, owners of Unley Park, smart category, bang, and I can send that market report out. An alternative example would be if I had a particular inspection done, say 12 Whistler Avenue, Unley Park, beautiful property, only one person can buy it. I had a bunch of leftover buyers there and I listed a property down the road that was quite similar. I wanted to show those buyers that missed out that there's this new listing on the market. I wanted to send them an EDM that had that new listing in it. I could go to that vendor report, create a smart category of all those missed, those unsuccessful buyers, and I could send them out the new property. So that was the smart category in a nutshell, big nutshell, I guess. And then in Vault, it's not called the smart category anymore. It's called contact distribution lists. So it works the same. One little difference is that when you would populate a smart category, anytime you hit a smart category in my desktop, it would erase the people that were in it before, and it would just have the people that you've clicked add to smart category in that instant. So you would recycle it all the time. And with distribution lists, it doesn't do that. You can create as many distribution lists as you want, but they expire after 48 hours. Reason being, in my first example of sending out a market report of Unley Park, I'm going to have new data going into that suburb regularly. I don't want to have that distribution list permanently there because it's essentially the same thing as having to manually update a contact category every single time new data or old data needs to be added or removed. In the other instant that I mentioned, the vendor report, there's going to be new data going to that vendor report constantly. There's going to be new inquiries. You're going to do open homes. There's going to be new data there as well. It's going to continuously update. So we need to refresh those contact distribution lists regularly, and you can do that via the tool. So I'll start with the vendor report because I'm going to go through filter contacts after in its own right as well. Just going to click a current listing of mine. It is 12 Whistler Avenue, Unley Park, and I'm going to go to the vendor report or the owner feedback report as it's now called in Vault. So from here, based off of my date range, I'll just make it a little bit further back. You can see all of the people that I've checked in to this particular property. Now this Tassie Devil person's been checked in a lot because I demonstrate him when I'm training on the Vault app quite a bit, but you can see that he's there. You can see that I've got a phone-in inquiry from the same person. I've got some phone calls. I've got a telemarketing note. And if this was a real database, I dare say I would have some REA and domain inquiries as well. I can't show you them because I don't have any, but on yours, they will likely be there. I can come down here and click contact distribution list. It's going to default name it as attendees, 12 Whistler Avenue, Unley Park on the 16th of April, which is a completely completely appropriate name, but if you wanted to change that, you are more than welcome to. From there, I can click who I actually want to add into this distribution list. So do I want the people that came through open homes? Absolutely, I do. I know that Taz was a successful buyer, so I actually don't want him, or maybe I do. It's completely up to you. I'm going to untick Taz for now, and then I'm going to leave the rest of the people ticked as well. Come down, and I'm going to create my list. So that's my contact distribution list. It's available for 48 hours. Right then and there, if I wanted to, I can send a bulk email or I can send a bulk SMS or text, but I'm just going to close that for now. Alternatively, as I said before, I can go to the filter contacts. So filter contacts is your new version of the CCR tool. And I'm going to explain this. I'm going to explain this through and get to the contact distribution list at the end because it's all quite relevant. So from the filter contacts tool, I can add access by staff member, which generally you wouldn't if you were running an open database because most people would have access to all contacts, but you might wish to do that if you were doing it in a closed database. Alternatively, for one or the other, both open and closed, you might want to filter contacts based off of the marketing contact one, or what we used to know as the FPOC or first point of contact. So let's just say I do it for myself. So I can see my, apologies if you can see this text message is popping up. This is just looking at my own database, regardless of whether it's open or closed. I can just see the people that are my FPOC or marketing contact one. You'll also see throughout this that there's multiple other refinements that we can make. I can search people based off of precincts. I can search people based off of property relationships. So without having to add them through to categories or anything like that, Vault will pick up the fact based off of attachments to properties that I've got current owners, I've got prospective owners because their properties are marked as appraisals. I've got prospective landlords. I've got purchasers. So I've got new owners in their particular areas, and I can do date ranges for each of those as well. So I could do current owners or vendors in a particular suburb. So let's just do my property owners. I don't care what classification they are. They could be vendors. They could just be property owners or prospective vendors, or they could be newly bought people in a particular area. I'm going to do Unley Park, kind of hoping I actually have data in there. And I will click search at the end, but I'm just going to go through the rest of these fields. I can also do it based off of dates and anniversaries. So I could run a report based off of settlement date anniversaries. I could run a report on my pipeline for a particular date range. I could do all sorts there. Buyer/rent requirements. Again, not new. My desktop had this as well, but I can search off of buyer/rent requirements. I've got my contact distribution list there, which I can tick as well if I wanted to see who actually lived within that distribution list. And then just like my desktop, I've got all of my categories here. So if I had a particular category called my core database, and that was one that I managed my centralized geodata in, I could do a search using my marketing contact one, Daniel Gray, and my core database tick box of that category, and I could run a search just off of that. Down the bottom here, you've got your source of inquiries that you can do searches for. You've got your unsubscribed from, various refinements there. You've got those with or without email addresses, those with or without phone numbers, and those that are archived or non-archived, therefore current or not current in the database as well. And you can run a search off of them. So just to recap, my search in this particular instance is my own database of all my property owners, essentially my geodata, in Unley Park specifically. And I can click search. I've just got the one. I've got Tassie Devil. He's the current owner of 12 Whistler Avenue, Unley Park. If I was to have more than this, let's just say I'll do a refreshed filter contacts of a bit of a broader search. So Daniel Gray. I'm not going to do my property owners just because I want to show you a little bit more information here. There we go. So I can see my database here. I've got 13 people. Just like the CCR tool, this can be used as a prospecting tool. So I could go modified, for example, and I can see that I haven't communicated with Tweety Bird since the 13th of the 1st. They might be due a call. I can add a note directly from here. Otherwise, I can go through to that contacts card and it's going to open up in a new tab so I don't lose my place on the report. But if the purpose of this was to make a call, I've got the phone number there and I can add a note directly without even going to that contacts card. I can then move on to my next person, my next person, my next person, etc., etc. In the instant that I wanted to have a look at who was in my contact distribution list, I can just tick that there and I can click search and I should have those people from the vendor report. Now, where that comes in handy for the distribution list is if I was to go into e-marketing and do an e-market communicator, let's just say I had a Designly template done up, I can choose to send that Designly template straight to my 12 Whistler Avenue distribution list. So I've made a beautiful template exhibiting the new listing that I have in Unley Park. I wanted to send it to that distribution list, so I would choose that template from Designly and send that out. New listing that you might like, or whatever that you might like. Rah, 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 rah. So that's the distribution list, and that is filter contacts. So it was just the CCR tool from my desktop. We've also got filter properties. So if I go into filter properties here, this is, of course, as you'd expect, looking at the property cards as opposed to the contact cards, which is what the filter contacts does. But from the filter properties, I can go an agent if I wanted to. So again, I could set it as myself. I could look at that as agent 1 or agent 2. Now that's rep. On the contacts card, we look at FPOC or marketing contact, but just like my desktop, on a property card, we look at rep 1 or 2, or in Vault, we look at agent 1 or 2, which is just your allocated reps for marketing. So I could go agent 1 or agent 2 specifically, or I could just leave it as Daniel Gray, whether he's agent 1 or 2 on any given property card. I can sort by open homes, so upcoming in the next 7 or 14 days if I would like to. I can do it by precinct. I could do it by property tag if I've been tagging my properties with particular features. I could sort it by property categories, which in my experience, people don't generally use, but if you do, then you can sort it by that as well. I can do it by sales details, all sorts of information there, property attributes, price or street name, area, etc. If you add particular property functions in my database, we've got swimming pool. So I want to bring up all my properties that have swimming pools. Yes. I'll just go back to that. No, I can sort by that as well. And then it will bring up a search of my properties, which I've only really got one in my database. I dare say you'll have a lot more in yours. So that's the contact distribution list. It's used for e-marketing, and it's used for like quick EDM specific to the time. Of course, you can send e-marketing to categories, permanent categories like your core database or your current buyers, your buyer match, all that kind of stuff. But if you had something in particular, a newsletter, a market report, a new listing that you wanted to send to some people from a vendor report or something like that, use those contact distribution lists. They're a really, really cool tool. They'll disappear after 48 hours. Just before I stop sharing my screen and before I sign off and let you go, I would just like to bring your attention to the gen5.ray loading page. So this is the One System 2.0 loading page. You can access Vault and everything else from this page as well. I'm just going to bring up my Google Drive really quick, and I'm also going to bring up Whiteboard. So under Whiteboard, we can, for example, type Vault, and it's going to bring up all of these articles about Vault. So there's more demonstration webinars available here, and there's also some Vault on-demand webinars under this one here as well. So there's a ton of training on there available to you. If I was in my Google Drive, I could just type in training videos. And if I go to the national training folder on Google Drive, and I'll go into One System Digital just for example, I can see all those sessions that we've been doing all throughout COVID last year and ongoing as we record our sessions. You've got information on the mobile app and how to set that up, your Active Pipe and Vault integration upgrades, all that kind of stuff, your OMC inductions, everything's here that we've recorded for you to access and view whenever you wish if you wanted to upskill on Vault or anything else in the One System. So that's me for today. I hope you got something out of that. I will see you next time. Thanks again.